Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Friday, December 7th, 2018. I have a big podcast today, so I'm trying to rip through everything. I want to go over last night's game between the Titans and the Jags, go over the college basketball results from last night, as well as NBA and NHL. I want to talk about the college football awards a little bit, a tragic story in Major League Baseball. Georgia Tech hires a new coach. I'm going to do my NFL picks, and I'm going to actually close out with predictions for the winter meetings. I'm actually going to save the more suspense for last because this is a big winter meetings coming up. A lot of big names available, either free agency or trade. So a rare commodity when I do not do the NFL picks last. But let's start with the NFL anyway. The Titans defeat the Jaguars 30-9. Big win for Tennessee. They get themselves over 500. They're 7-6. Jacksonville's 4-9. Marcus Mariota, not a great game. 18 of 24, 162 yards and a pick. Cody Kessler, 25 of 43, 240 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, by the way, 4 touchdowns to go with his 17 carries and 238 yards. Yes, he had the big 99-yard run, but he just had a great game. And he deserves recognition for that. Next, I'm going to move on to college basketball. I'm just going to go through the scores very quick. It was not a big slate last night. Gardner-Webb defeated Bob Jones 105-37. Gardner-Webb has improved to 5-5. Purdue defeats number 23 Maryland 62-60. Not an upset. Purdue was favored in the game, although they did not cover. Purdue 6-3, Maryland 7-2. Wake Forest defeats Charlotte 80-56. Wake Forest 5-3, Charlotte 2-5. Oakland defeats Fairfield 87-86. Oakland pulls off the upset. They're 4-5. Fairfield's 2-7. Wofford defeats Kentucky Christian 112-58. Wofford improves to 7-3. Indiana Purdue defeats Indiana Kokomo 95-64. Indiana Purdue is now 6-3. Tennessee Tech defeats Warren Wilson 118-60. Tennessee Tech is now 2-7. Florida A&M defeats Fort Valley State 80-58. Florida A&M is 3-7. South Carolina State defeats Voorhees 90-69. South Carolina State is now 2-8. Number 18 Iowa defeats Iowa State 98-84. This is the rare instinct where the ranked team actually pulls off the upset because Iowa State was stupidly a road favorite. I said on this podcast yesterday that Iowa should have been favored, and I proved to be right as Iowa not only wins by 14, they're now 7-2 on the year, but Iowa State's also 7-2. Drake defeats Milwaukee 75-61. Drake improves to 61. Milwaukee drops to 2-7. Chicago State defeats Trinity, Illinois 84-82. Chicago State is now 3-8. Arizona defeats Utah Valley 80-69. Arizona 7-2. Utah Valley 6-4. UC Riverside defeats Pepperdine 75-71. Riverside 3-7. Pepperdine 5-4. Seattle defeats Omaha 90-71. Seattle is 9-2. Omaha's 3-6. San Jose State defeats Bethune-Cookman 67-65. San Jose State 2-6. Bethune-Cookman 4-6. Tonight's slate at 7 o'clock you have Oral Roberts, Missouri, UMass Providence. Air Force Reserve Basketball Hall of Fame Classic. You have New Mexico and St. Mary's. The game is from Staples Center. James Madison and George Mason. UNC Greensboro, Olan. UMass Lowell hosts Maine, Fort Kent. Bryan at Columbia. Longwood hosts Frostburg State. 7:30 Louisiana Tech, Stephen F. Austin. 8 o'clock Southern against South Dakota State. TCU USC from the Staples Center at 9:30 on Fox Sports 1. This is a good game. There's going to be a lot of USC fans in the building because it's at the Staples Center, so give me USC. That's easy. I think they pull off the upset at what really is a home game for them. Idaho State and Santa Clara at 10 o'clock, and at midnight at the Staples Center, you have number 6 Nevada against number 20 Arizona State. This is a fantastic game. 2 undefeateds going at it. Bob Hurley has been tremendous in big games throughout his career, and so is Eric Musselman. My goodness, this is such a hard call. I know Nevada's the better team. They're a 6-point favorite. But this feels like this has all the makings of Arizona State pulling off the upset. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm taking the Sun Devils to pull off an upset. Taking Bobby Hurley, and I'm going to ride with the Sun Devils tonight. NBA. Only a 3-gamer last night. The Celtics defeated the Knicks 128-100. Celtics pulled away in the second half. They're 14-10. Knicks are 8-18. Kyrie Irving had 22 points with 8 assists. Al Horford, 19 points, 12 boards. Jason Tatum had 17. Marcus Morris had 10. Daniel Theis off the bench had 10. Terry Rozier off the bench had 11. And Jaylen Brown off the bench in his first game back had 21. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 22. Emmanuel Mudiay had 17. Enes Kanter had 14 with 11 boards. Noah Vonleh had 12 with 10 boards. Kevin Knox off the bench had 11. The Blazers defeated the Suns 108-86. Portland 14-11. Phoenix 4-21. Damian Lillard 25 points, 8 assists and 5 boards. Zach Collins off the bench had 10. Also off the bench with 24 points, Jake Layman, who's been in and out of the starting lineup for them, but tonight coming off the bench. Josh Jackson had 14. Elio Kobo had 11. Troy Daniels had 15 off the bench. DeAndre Ayton off the bench had 11 with 8 boards. The Rockets defeat the Jazz 118-91 in the battle of NBA's two biggest disappointments, as the Jazz improved to 13-13. Houston drops to 11-13. Derek Favors off the bench had 24 points and 10 boards. Dante Exum off the bench had 15. Joe Ingles had 18. Jay Crowder had 12. Ricky Rubio had 13. The thing is, the Jazz kicked the Rockets' butts with their best two players scoring a combined total of 8 points. James Harden had 15. Chris Paul and Clint Capella each had 12. Michael Carter-Williams had 13. And Nene had 11 off the bench. So I go 2 for 2 in correcting or picking the games for the TNT doubleheader for tonight. I had, obviously, the Celtics and the Jazz. Tonight's slate is a little bigger. 7 o'clock, Nuggets, Hornets. Possible trap game for Denver. 76ers and the Pistons. Speaking of trap games, this is obviously one for Philly. Detroit's actually a favorite in the game. It's going to be Mike Breen and Doris Burke on the call. I think that the Sixers are the better team. It's weird that Detroit's a 1-point favorite. It's probably telling me something that I don't know, but I see that Philadelphia is the better team. So give me Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, and the 76ers to bounce back from the disappointing loss in Toronto with a good effort on the road, and will win by somewhere between 5 and 10 points. You have the Pacers and the Magic. The Magic are actually laying 2.5. That's weird. Pacers are the better team. I think Pacers win that game outright. Raptors, Nets. Raptors 9.5-point favorite. I think that this is a trap game for the Raptors. Letdown spot after the big Sixers win. So I'm going to say the Nets at least cover. Wouldn't be stunned if they won outright and ended their losing streak at 8. The Kings and the Cavaliers at 7:30 as well. Sacramento's a 3-point favorite. These are two bad teams, but I probably would take the points. 8 o'clock, they have the Thunder and the Bulls. Possible trap game for OKC. They survived their last one in Brooklyn. Grizzlies Pelicans at 8 o'clock. This is a fun game. You have at 8:30 the Lakers and the Spurs. This is the 4th time these two teams have met this year. This is obviously going to be the final time these two teams meet this year, barring a playoff series between these two teams, which I don't see happening. I don't think the Spurs are a playoff team. Lakers are a 1-point favorite. They should win that game. 9 o'clock, you have the Heat and the Suns. Trap game for Miami. Phoenix on the second night of a back-to-back. Something's got to give. Warriors, Bucks, 9:30 ESPN. Milwaukee's laying 1.5 at home. This is the best game of the night. 2 of the best teams in the league. 3 of the best 10 players in the league with Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think Giannis is going to lead the Bucks to a big win here. I don't think Draymond Green's back for this game for Golden State, and that arena's going to be going bonkers, and I could see Giannis putting up a 30-15-10 type of game and leading the Bucks to a signature win at home and sweep the Warriors for the regular season. How about that? Let's move on to hockey. Last night we had a busy slate. The Red Wings with a big upset win 5-4 in overtime over the Maple Leafs cost me my parlay last night. Detroit improves to 13-12-4. Toronto drops to 28-1. This was their first overtime shootout loss of the season, Toronto's. Number 1 star of the game, the overtime winner plus an assist, Dylan Larkin. The number 2 star of the game with the goal and an assist, Andreas Johnson. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and 2 assists, Gustav Nyquist. The Avalanche defeat the Panthers 5-2. Colorado 17-7-5. Florida 11-11-5. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Carl Soderberg. Number 2 star of the game with the goal, JT Compher. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal, Aaron Ekblad. The Blue Jackets defeat the Flyers 4-3 in overtime. Good win for Columbus, 16-10-2 on the year. Philly drops to 11-12-3. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, including the overtime winner, Seth Jones. The number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Travis Sanheim. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Brandon Dubinsky. The Penguins defeat the Islanders 6-2. I was thinking about putting the Penguins in that parlay yesterday, but I didn't. Although it wouldn't have mattered. Toronto still would have been in there, and I would take Toronto most of the time. But they just killed me last night, but whatever. Penguins 12-10-5. Islanders 13-11-3. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals and 2 assists, Phil Kessel. The number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Chris Letang. And the number 3 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Sidney Crosby. The Canadiens defeat the Senators 5-2. The Canadiens improve to 14-10-5. Ottawa drops to 12-14-3. The number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Paul Byron. The number 2 star of the game with the goal and assist, Colin White. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Jeff Petrie. The Lightning defeat the Bruins 3-2. The Lightning improved to 22-7-1. Boston drops to 14-10-4. The number 1 star of the game with the goal, Matthew Joseph. The number 2 star of the game with 33 saves on 35 shots, Louis Domingue. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, David Pastrnak. The Flames defeat the Wild 2-0. The Flames improved to 18-9-2. Minnesota drops to 15-11-2. The number 1 star of the game with 31 saves on 31 shots, Mike Smith. The number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Elias Lindholm. And the number 3 star of the game with 2 assists, Johnny Gaudreau. The Capitals defeat the Coyotes 4-2. The Capitals improve to 16-9-3. Arizona drops to 13-12-2. The number 1 star of the game with the goal, Andrei Burakovsky. The number 2 star of the game with the goal and assist, Matt Niskanen. And number 3 star of the game with a goal, Christian Fischer. The Canucks defeated the Predators 5-3. It was a trap spot for Nashville. Vancouver gets a win. They improved to 12-16-3. Nashville drops to 19-9-1. The number 1 star of the game with the goal and assist, Elias Pettersson. The number 2 star of the game with the goal and assist, Jake Virtanen. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal and assist, Bo Horvat. The Golden Knights defeat the Blackhawks 4-3. The Golden Knights improve to 16-13-1. Chicago drops to 9-16-5. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Riley Smith. The number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Jonathan Marchessault. And number 3 star of the game with a goal, Derek Engelland. The Devils defeat the Kings 6-3. Big win for the Devils to go to 10-12-5. LA drops to 10-18-1. The number 1 star of the game with 3 assists, Taylor Hall. The number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Kyle Palmieri. And the number 3 star of the game with the goal, Adrian Kempe. Smaller slate tonight. You have 5 games on the board. I'm sorry, 4. 8 o'clock, you have the Sharks and the Stars, the Blues and the Jets. 9 o'clock, the Wild and the Oilers. 10 o'clock, the Hurricanes and the Ducks. College football awards were last night. There were a lot of awards given out in the ceremony that ESPN airs every year. So the big awards that were given out: the most outstanding player, the Maxwell Award, was given out to Tua Tagovailoa. The Walter Camp Award was Tua Tagovailoa. The Coach of the Year is Brian Kelly. The Doak Walker Award, which is the best running back, Jonathan Taylor. The Davey O'Brien Award, which is the National Quarterback Award, Kyler Murray. So Murray and Tagovailoa split, or I should say Tagovailoa takes 2 of the Walter Camp and Maxwell, and the O'Brien goes to Murray. And it's funny because the Heisman winner usually wins both of those, but we'll see. The Heisman will be announced tomorrow night. And it's either going to be Tua Tagovailoa, Kyler Murray, or Dwayne Haskins. The Unitas Golden Arm Award, which is the most outstanding senior quarterback, went to Gardner Minshew of Washington State. The outstanding receiver, the Fred Bilenkoff Award, went to Jerry Jeudy of Alabama. The outstanding tight end award, the John Mackey Award, went to T.J. Hawkinson from Iowa. The Outland Trophy, which is the most outstanding interior lineman, went to Quentin Williams of Alabama. The Lombardi Award will be announced tomorrow. The Remington Trophy, which is the most outstanding center, went to Garrett Bradbury of North Carolina State. The Defensive Player of the Year Award, which was the Chuck Benrick Award, as well as the Bronco Nagurski Award. Both of these went to Josh Allen of Kentucky. The Most Outstanding Linebacker, which is the Dick Butkus Award, went to Devin White of LSU. The Jim Thorpe Award, the Most Outstanding Defensive Back, went to DeAndre Baker of Georgia. The Lou Gorza Award, that went to the Collegiate Place Kicker, went to Andre Smith of Syracuse. The Outstanding Punter, which is the Ray Guy Award, went to Braden Mann of Texas A&M. The Ted Hendricks Award, which is the Defensive End of the Year Award, went to Clayton Farrell of Clemson. The Campbell Trophy, which is the Top Scholar Athlete, went to Christian Wilkins of Clemson. The Assistant Coach of the Year, which is the Frank Boyles Award, went to Mike Anthony Loskley of Maryland. The Lott Impact Trophy, which is the Outstanding Defensive Player, will be announced tomorrow. The Paul Hornberger Award, which is the Most Versatile Player, went to Rondell Moore of Purdue. And the Disney Spirit Award, this is my favorite award. The Most Inspirational Player or Team, Tyler Trent, the super fan from Purdue that is battling cancer. That, to me, was the most deserving award. And last but not least, the Top Community Servant of the Year, which is the Werfel Trophy, went to Dre Tranquill of Notre Dame. And like I said, tomorrow night, a couple things will be announced, including the Heisman. I believe it will be Kyler Murray, although I think Tua Tagovailoa deserves it because he was the best player on the best team. I like Kyler Murray, and I think he had a fantastic year, but Tua Tagovailoa was the best player in the country all season long. Missing a half of your conference championship game shouldn't be able to cost you the Heisman, but that might be reality tomorrow night. Jeff Collins was chosen to be the next head coach at Georgia Tech. Good hire for them. I think they're better off with Collins than Ken Wisenhunt, who I wouldn't have been a fan of. I didn't like him in the NFL. He'd rather be a coordinator for somebody in the NFL, Wisenhunt. But Collins is a good hire. I think he'll do a good job replacing Paul Johnson. And I think that he will be able to recruit some guys there from that area. That Coastal Division, the AAC, is wide open because it seems like somebody random's in there every year. In the ACC title game this past season was Pitt. Last year, it was Miami. The year before, it was Virginia Tech. And in one year, it was North Carolina. It seems like it's somebody different every year. And then Georgia Tech was in it the year that Jameis Winston was at Florida State. I think it was the second year it was at Florida State. So that's that. And now Temple has to move on. And a lot of people are mentioning Lance Leopold of Buffalo as a possible candidate in Temple. And I think he'd work well there. And poor Temple, they lose Matt Rule to Baylor, and then they lose Jeff Collins to Georgia Tech. I feel like the Temple coach always tends to leave every year. It's either their coach or the Houston coach that tends to leave every year. And then the Memphis coach. It's always AAC coaches that tend to leave to new schools, especially the better programs in that conference. And then Josh Heupel got a contract extension from UCF, so he's not going anywhere. I don't think Charlie Strong's going anywhere. Let's move on. Very tragic news in Major League Baseball. Luis Valbuena, former role player, passed away in a car crash along with former Pirates second baseman Jose Castillo. Castillo was 37, Valbuena was 33, and they were apparently coming home from their Venezuelan Professional Baseball League game, and Venezuelan authorities said that their car went on the opposite side of the road while trying to avoid a sliding rock. And that's just a tragic story. Valbuena has been a solid role player for a couple years. He was mostly recently on the Angels. Castillo bounced around. I said he was on the Pirates. He was on San Francisco and Houston. Other teams Valbuena was on. He was on Seattle. He was on the Indians. He was on the Astros. He was on the Cubs. I remember him on the Cubs, and I remember him on Houston. And most notably, these past few years, I remember him on the Angels and getting some hits for them. So that's tragic. I'll get back to baseball in a second. I'm obviously going to do my predictions for the winter meetings and the power rankings. Army-Navy, I'm going to save that pick for tomorrow's podcast. So let's go to NFL for week number 14. Lines and totals are courtesy of the DraftKings Sportsbook. First up, the battle of NFL disappointments. The Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. Atlanta 4-8, Green Bay 4-7-1. Like I said, here's the battle of NFL disappointments. The Falcons are coming off a dismal home loss against the Baltimore Ravens. The Packers are coming off an awful home loss against the lowly Arizona Cardinals, which led to the firing of Mike McCarthy. This was the hardest game to pick, and I could see a motivated Aaron Rodgers in the wake of McCarthy's firing. So give me the Packers in a close one. Green Bay 33, Atlanta 30. The Falcons have bit me all season long, so I'm not even taking that +5. So give me over 51.5. The 7-5 Baltimore Ravens are at the 10-2 Kansas City Chiefs, 1 o'clock on CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo on the call. The Ravens are coming off a big road win in Atlanta against the Falcons to hold their playoff spot. The Chiefs are coming off a narrow road win in Oakland against the Oakland Raiders. I'm not sold on Lamar Jackson being the guy, and I can see him turning the ball over even against the subpar Chiefs defense, although I think Gus Edwards will run on that defense. Chiefs get the win and avoid a trap. I think this is close, and then the Chiefs pull away late. 37-23, Kansas City, I'm laying the 6.5. The 9-3 New England Patriots at the 6-6 Miami Dolphins, 1 o'clock on CBS. The Patriots are coming off a big home win over the Minnesota Vikings. The Dolphins are coming off a big divisional home win over the Buffalo Bills to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. The Pats have a history of losing in Miami over the past few seasons, but I don't see it here as they're getting healthy, although I do think the Dolphins will give them a fight. New England 24, Miami 20. I'm taking the +7.5. Next up, the 6-6 Carolina Panthers at the 4-7-1 Cleveland Browns. The Panthers are coming off a bad divisional road loss in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. The Browns are coming off a road loss in Houston against the Texans. The Panthers are in free fall mode, and the Browns and Baker Mayfield is the safer side. Cleveland 33, Carolina 24. Cleveland's getting a 1.5. I'm taking that and running. They're winning this game outright. The 6-6 Indianapolis Colts are at the 9-3 Houston Texans, 1 o'clock CBS. The Colts are coming off an awful divisional road loss in Jacksonville against the Jaguars. The Texans are coming off a home win over the Cleveland Browns. I think the Colts looked past the Jags last week and will give the Texans a battle, but I think the Texans will win a close one. Houston 27, Indianapolis 24. Another tough call here. I'm going to take the 4.5. Because I think this is a 3-point game either side. Next up, the 10-2 New Orleans Saints at the 5-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1 o'clock on Fox. The Saints are coming off a tough Thursday night road loss in Arlington against the Cowboys. The Buccaneers are coming off a divisional home win over the Carolina Panthers. The Saints are just poised to come out and bounce back from that bad offensive performance last week, and quite frankly, the Bucs are due for a bad game. New Orleans 38, Tampa 20. Give me the 9.5. I don't see how the Saints either lose the game outright or really the Bucs hang around. Next up, the 4-8 New York Football Giants at the 6-6 Washington Redskins, 1 o'clock on Fox. This is probably going to be the Kenny Albert and Darryl Johnson game. The Giants are coming off an overtime home win over the Chicago Bears in a game which they had a 10-point lead in with less than 2 minutes left. The Redskins are coming off a Monday night divisional road loss in Philadelphia against the Eagles. Mark Sanchez is now the Redskins starting quarterback after their backup Colt McCoy was lost for the season with a leg injury. Big Blue gets their 4th win in 5 weeks. Giants 26, Washington 16. I'm holding my breath and laying the 3.5 here. Next up is the 3-9 New York Jets at the 4-8 Buffalo Bills, 1 o'clock CBS. The Jets are coming off a brutal road loss in Tennessee against the Titans. The Bills are coming off a close divisional road loss in Miami against the Dolphins. Josh Allen has shown flashes these past few weeks, and I like him to get the win here over a Jets team that's quit on its head coach and playing for a high draft pick. Buffalo 20, Jets 13. The play here is under 38.5. Because I could see this being a 3-point game. Next up is the 5-7 Cincinnati Bengals at the 9-3 Los Angeles Chargers, 4 o'clock on CBS. The Bengals are coming off a home loss against the Denver Broncos. The Chargers are coming off a huge Sunday night road win in Pittsburgh against the Steelers, courtesy of a game-winning field goal. I can totally see look-ahead potential here for the Chargers here with the Chiefs looming next week, so expect to be a little closer than some people think. Chargers 27, Cincinnati 13. The play here is under 47.5. 6-6 Denver Broncos at the 3-9 49ers, 4 o'clock CBS. The Broncos are coming off a big road win in Cincinnati against the Bengals. The 49ers are coming off a divisional road loss in Seattle against the Seahawks. The Broncos have lost Emmanuel Sanders for the year due to a torn Achilles and Chris Harris for the year due to a broken leg. And this has the makings of an upset. Niners spoil the Broncos' hopes of reaching the playoffs just a little bit. San Francisco 26, Denver 20. I'm taking the +4. And the Niners went outright. This is probably the game of the day. Philadelphia Eagles 6-6 at the Dallas Cowboys 7-5. 4:25 on Fox. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call. The Eagles are coming off a big Monday night home win over the Washington Redskins. The Cowboys are coming off a big-time Thursday night home win over the New Orleans Saints. The winner of this game is going to win the NFC East, and that will be the Dallas Cowboys. 30-23, I'm laying the 3.5. Next up, the 7-4-1 Pittsburgh Steelers at the 2-10 Oakland Raiders, 4:25 on Fox. The Steelers are coming off a brutal Sunday night home loss against the Los Angeles Chargers, in which they blew a 16-point lead in. The Raiders are coming off a close divisional home loss against the Kansas City Chiefs. James Conner isn't playing this week. He's hurt, but I still think the Steelers win this game by double digits, 37-23. But the play here is over 51.5. Because I wouldn't be floored if Oakland covered. 4-8 Detroit Lions at the 3-9 Arizona Cardinals, 4:25 on Fox. The Lions are coming off a home loss against the Los Angeles Rams. The Cardinals are coming off a rare road win in Green Bay against the Packers. I don't see this bad Cardinals team winning back-to-back weeks. So give me Matthew Stafford and the Lions, although there's some injuries on that team, to win a close one. Detroit 26, Arizona 23. I think the play here is over 40.5. Sunday night, the 11-1 Los Angeles Rams at the 8-4 Chicago Bears, 8:20 NBC. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya on the call. The Rams are coming off a road win in Detroit against the Lions. The Bears are coming off a bad overtime road loss in East Rutherford against the Giants. Mitch Trubisky is coming back this week, but we don't know how healthy he really is. Give me the Rams on the road. to get an inch closer to home field advantage in the NFC playoffs. Rams 27, Chicago 16. I'm laying the 2.5. And Monday Night Football, this is a big one. Minnesota Vikings 6-5-1 at the Seattle Seahawks 7-5. 8:30 ESPN. Joe Tessitore, Jason Witten, Booger McFarland, Lisa Salters on the call. This game could determine playoff seeding in the NFC for sure. The Vikings are coming off a disappointing road loss in New England against the Patriots. The Seahawks are coming off a big divisional home win over the San Francisco 49ers. Russell Wilson is playing like a top MVP candidate, and that continues in primetime over a Vikings team that hasn't beaten anybody good this season. Seattle 24, Minnesota 21. My play here is under 45.5. It's a ballsy call, but both of these teams have good defenses. I can see the Vikings defense getting to Russell Wilson a little bit and exposing that Seahawks offensive line. I don't think the Seahawks have seen a good pass rush in a while, so I'm going to play the under here. And that's it for the picks. Now I'm going to do my MLB Power Rankings, and I'm going to give out a bold prediction for every team as I go. I'm going to go from 30 to 1. Number 30 is the Baltimore Orioles. They haven't done anything yet. They still have to hire a manager. My bold prediction for them is that they trade Mark Trumbo to the Chicago White Sox for Gavin Sheets and Ian Hamilton. Number 29 is the Kansas City Royals. One thing that they did that was notable was hire Mike Matheny to be a consultant. Now a lot of people think that he'll eventually take over for Nate Yost within the next few years. My bold prediction for the Kansas City Royals is that they trade Whit Merrifield to the Pittsburgh Pirates for Cole Tucker, Calvin Mitchell, and Steven Jennings. The Miami Marlins are number 28. They haven't done anything yet this offseason, and I can see them talking with other teams about players and whatnot. And my bold prediction for them is that they trade JT Realmuto to the New York Mets for Ahmed Rosario, Brandon Nimmo, Travis d'Arnaud, Franklin Colomone, and Jordan Humphreys. Number 27 is the Detroit Tigers. The one notable thing they did so far was sign Matt Moore to a one-year deal. He'll probably be trade bait in the summer if he pitches well. My bold prediction for the Tigers is that they trade Shane Green to the Washington Nationals for Tim Cate and Sterling Sharp. The Chicago White Sox are 26. You're going to hear them linked to Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. My prediction for them is that they bring back Joakim Soria. He signed with them last year and then they traded him to Milwaukee. I think the White Sox are going to try some things this winter, and I do think they'll bring back their former closer. 25 is the Cincinnati Reds. They're an interesting team. You'll hear them linked to big-name pitchers such as Dallas Keuchel and even Patrick Corbin and Charlie Morton. And you hear them linked to some other random free agents as well. But my bold prediction for them is that they miss out on those free agents. And the Los Angeles Dodgers throw out Gavin Lux, Dennis Santana, John Rudy, and Errol Robinson. The Reds take those players as they send Scooter Gennett to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Texas Rangers are 24. They're an interesting team. They haven't really said a peep. Nobody's talking about them. It's like they're irrelevant. My bold prediction for them is that they trade Jurickson Profar to the Chicago Cubs for Addison Russell, Oscar De La Cruz, and DJ Wilson. Number 23 is the San Diego Padres. You hear them linked to some big names in the trade market. You heard them linked to Noah Syndergaard, but the Mets seem inclined to keep him. My bold prediction for the Padres is that they sign Japanese pitcher Yusei Kikuchi. Number 22 is the San Francisco Giants. Their new GM, Farhan Zaidi, is going to bring more analytics ideas to this team, but I think he knows that he's facing a rebuild ahead. And I see a desperate team trading for Madison Bumgarner. I predicted this several times on the podcast. Madison Bumgarner is going to be traded next week. The teams you hear linked to him are the Phillies and the Brewers the most. I don't think they're trading him to a National League team. I think they're sending him to the American League East. I think they're going to send him to the New York Yankees. the Yankees are going to say, you can take on Estevan Florial, Albert Abreu, Luis Medina, and Chance Adams. We'll give you those 4 guys for Madison Bumgarner, but you have to take on Jacoby Ellsbury's horrendous contract too. So I do think the Giants pull that off. They get Florial, who could be an all-star someday in the future. Abreu, who could be a good pitcher. Medina and Adams as throw-ins. And the Yankees get the ace that they desperately need. Number 21 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. They traded Paul Goldschmidt last week. I think there's more moves to come. My bold prediction for them is that they trade Robbie Ray to the Chicago White Sox for Dan Dunning, Alec Hansen, Steele Walker, and Zach Birdie. Why Robbie Ray to the White Sox? Because the White Sox lost Michael Kopech all next year for Tommy John surgery. I think this team's going to try. They see that the Indians are blowing up their roster. So I think that they will trade for Robbie Ray and trade desperately. Number 20 of the Toronto Blue Jays. You haven't heard a peep about them, have you? Well, you will at the winter meetings. I say they trade Marcus Stroman to the San Diego Padres for Chris Paddock, Anderson Espinosa, and Josh Naylor. I know the Padres wanted one of those Met guys. But I think they get a little desperate and bring in Stroman and trade away 2 prospects that they got from other teams and their own in Chris Paddock. The Seattle Mariners are number 19. Their rebuild's underway. Who's next? Kyle Seager. What team does he go to? The Milwaukee Brewers. For Bryce Terang, Mauricio Dubon, and Caden Lemons. Number 18 is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They really haven't done anything yet this offseason. My bold prediction for them is that they re-sign Jordy Mercer. Number 17 is the Los Angeles Angels. You haven't heard of people about them yet. No, they're not trading Mike Trout, although there's going to be talks about that in the winter meetings on the MLB Network shows. But my bold prediction for them is that they'll sign Brian Dozier. 16 is the Minnesota Twins. I think they see opportunity to improve themselves a little bit with the Indians trying to sell off some pieces. I'm going to say they acquire Jeff Samardzija for Zach Little and John Curtis going to San Francisco. Number 15 is the Philadelphia Phillies. They haven't done anything yet. And I think this team is poised. Oh, wait, they did do one thing. They signed traded for Gene Segura. That's really it. But they haven't done anything that turned heads, per se. Gene Segura is a solid player, but he's no Bryce Harper or Manny Machado. My bold prediction for the Philadelphia Phillies is that they sign Dallas Keuchel after missing out on Patrick Corbin, and they also sign Adam Ottavino to bolster their bullpen. Number 14 is the New York Mets. Listen, I like that trade that they got with Cano and Diaz. That'll help them in the short term. I think they're thinking big things, and I think they're going to sign A.J. Pollock. Number 13 is the Oakland Athletics. They were a playoff team a year ago. They need help in that rotation. My bold prediction for them is that they sign Charlie Morton. Number 12 is the Tampa Bay Rays. If it weren't for a slow start, they probably would have been a playoff team. They'd probably been the team that'd be playing in Yankee Stadium, not the Oakland Athletics. The Rays need some veteran pitching. My bold prediction is that they sign Lance Lynn. Number 11 is the Colorado Rockies. They're going to be players in this winter meetings. My bold prediction for them is that they bolster their bullpen and replacing Adam Ottavino by signing Cody Allen. Number 10 is the Atlanta Braves. They made some head-turning moves with signing Josh Donaldson and Brian McCann. Donaldson's the big head-turner because he's a big name and he's a couple years removed from winning the American League MVP award. But my bold prediction for the Braves is that they acquire Michael Fulmer from the Detroit Tigers for Bryce Wilson, Max Fried, and Colby Allard. Number 9 is the Milwaukee Brewers. My bold prediction for them is that they'll sign Jay Happ to add him to their rotation. Number 8 is the Arizona Cardinals. They made their deal for Paul Goldschmidt. I think they need to bolster their bullpen, and they will by signing Joe Kelly. Number 7 is the Chicago Cubs. They haven't done anything yet this offseason of significance. I predicted a trade already for them on the podcast. Now I'm going to predict that they bolster their bullpen with the news coming out about Brandon Morrow not being ready for the season. I think they will sign Andrew Miller. Number 6 is the Washington Nationals. Yes, I do think they're that much better with the signing of Patrick Corbin. And their next move, I think they will bring back Daniel Murphy. The fans love them there, and I can see him going back there on like a 3-year, $40 million deal to play second base. Number 5 is the Cleveland Indians. As far as I'm concerned, Corey Kluber and Trevor Bauer and Carlos Carrasco and Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez are all still on their roster. But Corey Kluber won't be on the roster in a week from now. I'm going to say they trade him to the Los Angeles Dodgers for Yasiel Puig, Kenta Maeda, Dustin May, Mitchell White, and Diego Cartaya. This would be a big-time move for the Dodgers. They'd have a big 3 of Corey Kluber, Clayton Kershaw, and Walker Buehler. And then Rich Hill would be in that rotation, and Heijun Ryu. You have Alex Wood there, too, as like a 6th starter. They're going to take advantage of the DL as they do each and every year. I have Maeda in the trade. And I really think that they want to get rid of Puig. So that's my bold prediction for the Indians. And probably my boldest prediction for the Dodgers on here as well. Number 4 is the New York Yankees. Around this time a year ago, they were tight-lipped. And then they made the surprise trade for Giancarlo Stanton. I think this is the biggest surprise team of the winter meetings. I have them trading for Madison Bumgarner. Call me a homer. Call me whatever name you want. I think they're going to sign both Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. I'm calling it. They're both going to get big contracts. I'm going to say 10-year deals for each with a lot of money. Maybe Harper gets a 12. And both players will have opt-outs in them as well. And I think they're desperate. They won't admit it. And the fact that they're coming out and saying they're as good as the Red Sox is setting fans' expectations lower. I really think this team is poised to do some big things. And I just have sneaky suspicions that they're going to sign both players and trade for Madison Bumgarner. And they'll bring back David Robertson and Zach Britton too. And they're going to be perceived with the Dodgers as the favorites to win next year's World Series. And that's how it's going to go. And everybody's going to be yipping and yapping. And the Philly fans are going to be crying that they didn't sign Bryce Harper and Manny Machado like they thought they would. And everybody's going to be jealous of the Yankees and the Dodgers again after they make big moves this winter meetings. And in theory here, Harper playing left. Machado would start this season at shortstop. Once C.D. Gregorius comes back from Tommy John, they move Machado to third. Put Miguel Andujar at first. Giancarlo Stanton's your DH. And they're just going to be loaded. And though the Red Sox love serious competition in their division, and probably the Yankees would be favorites in that division if they were able to come away with Madison Bumgarner, Manny Machado, and Bryce Harper in the winter meetings, which I think they will. Number 3 is the Houston Astros. I think this team is also poised to make a big move. They know, in all likelihood, they won't retain Dallas Keuchel and Charlie Morton. They're going to call the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hey, you can have Corbin Martin, Framber Valdez, and Miles Straw. We'll take Zach Greinke off your hands. Arizona will gladly do that. So the Astros get yet another ace to go to Houston. And that rotation will have Verlander, Greinke, and Cole. Lance McCullers Jr. is out with Tommy John surgery. And then they have some internal options. They have Forrest Whitley, who they can plug in that rotation. They can make Colin McHugh a starter. He was a starter in the past. So they have some options too. But I think Greinke's going to be an Astro. I would have had Goldschmidt in this trade too if Arizona didn't pull off that deal with the Cardinals, by the way. But nope. Goldschmidt's a Cardinal, not an Astro. Number 2 is the Los Angeles Dodgers. I already told you guys that I think that they're the team that acquires Corey Kluber. I think they bolstered their bullpen too by signing Kelvin Herrera. They'll come out of the winter as perceived as National League favorites. And number 1 is the Boston Red Sox. They're the reigning world champions. They're number 1 as long as the Yankees or the Dodgers don't officially make their splashes. But my bold prediction for the Boston Red Sox, their biggest need is their bullpen. I think they bring back Craig Kimbrell. It seems like they're bringing back all their World Series team heroes. It's not that Kimbrell was a hero, except he was just on that team, and the Red Sox always tend to do this. They brought back Nathan Eovaldi. They brought back Steve Pearce. Now I think they bring back Craig Kimbrell too. And that's it for my power rankings, and that's it for today's podcast. I'll be back tomorrow recapping NBA, NHL, college basketball, and other things that happen in the world of sports. Before I go, Best Bet, sponsored by DraftKings. Not a big one. I have a couple college teams, 2 NBA teams, and an NHL team. I have the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Miami Heat, Providence, Missouri, UNC Greensboro, South Dakota State, and the Winnipeg Jets. Plus 25 to win $2.25. I'm wagering $1. My payout's going to be $3.25. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.